Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Program Standing Committee tonight, October 9th, 2024. So we will begin with the land acknowledgement of the traditional territory, and that is being read by Assistant Superintendent McMeekin.
Simcoe County District School Board acknowledges that we are situated in the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people.
Thank you. So please rise if you are able for the national anthem. Tonight's version of the national anthem is courtesy of Twin Lakes Secondary School. That brings us to the statement of respect, and that is being read by Assistant Superintendent McMeekin.
The SCDSB is committed to creating a culture of belonging, engagement, and success for all through deliberate actions and an intentional focus in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The SCDSB Board of Trustees will conduct meetings in an inclusive, respectful manner that upholds the principles of respect for human rights and allows all members, staff, and guests to participate fully, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, age, ability, and gender.
Thank you. That takes us to roll call. This evening we have electronic participation from Trustee Foley, Trustee Harrigan, Chair Lloyd, Vice Chair Rafiq, and Trustee Wilson. Trustee Armstrong is on her way. She is just going to be a bit late. And then that takes us to approval of the agenda. Do I have a mover for that? Okay, Trustee Talbot, and seconded by Trustee Strawn. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Are there any declaration of conflicts of interest this evening? Okay, I don't see any. We do not have any presentations or delegations. We have no items for closed session. There are no items for decision. And then that takes us to items for information. So the first one is Outdoor Education and Learning, Pro-I-1, and I will invite Superintendent Jacobs.
Thank you. And through the chair to the table, I'd like to invite Principal McDonald to the table with me.
Excellent. Thank you.
The Simcoe County District School Board values and appreciates teaching and learning opportunities to promote outdoor education, effective practices, healthy active living, and personal well-being. Outdoor learning provides students of all ages with interactive opportunities to learn, lead, and innovate in nature. Research has shown that students who participate in outdoor learning are more engaged and have improved critical thinking skills and resilience. Outdoor learning is a key area of focus with respect to the physical and mental well-being of students and staff. The primary focus of this year is Phase 2 of the Grade 7 Outdoor Education Program at the Simcoe County District School Board Education Center. Learning continues In the Low Elements Challenge course, Phase 2 significantly increases our capacity to host students with the addition of 12 new elements in the Low Elements Challenge course. Students and staff participate in various challenges using a series of permanent and portable structures. Last year, the Simcoe County District School Board Low Elements Challenge course saw 4,000 participants. Grade 7 classes accounted for 86% of the participants, with another 125 secondary students. 30 staff members from various departments have been trained to be able to facilitate outdoor education. Indigenous perspectives and learnings are a key component to the program, and this year the continued focus is on grade 7 students with a view to helping them become leaders in their respective schools. I would like to thank our outdoor education team led by Principal McDonald and the efforts of our school staff and students for supporting and participating with these initiatives. I'd also like to thank our communications departments for capturing the fun and engagement our students have with the outdoor education at Simcoe County District School Board. And with that, I'd like to play the video. Thank you. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions? Trustee Bites.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Gummit, to our presenters. I was wondering about Phase 2. This is just you knocked things out of the water for the first year. 87% of grade 7 students, 4,000 participants. That is a lot of people going through. And Principal McDonald, maybe you helped every single person go through. I know you've put in a lot of time there. I was just wondering what the plan is going forward. So I know there was a few grade 7s that didn't get to go last year. I was wondering if they would get the opportunity to go this year, and if we're planning to be able to get all our grade 7s to go. If you're just able to give some more details on the rollout, please. Thank you.
Sure. Through the chair to Trustee Bites. We have a plan in place that's already, the number memorandum has come out. All grade 7s will be going through the course, as well as any of the grade 8s from schools that did not get to go last year. So we've covered everybody. So by the end of this year, the last 2 years of grade 7s will have gone through the course.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? Just looking online. Okay. Sorry, Trustee Bites.
Sorry, thank you. I had another question to through you to Principal McDonald. I recall when we, grade 7s was the first, post grade 7, there was another grade, I'm just forgetting. We were going to try to, what was the, like the third phase or the fourth phase, or were we, I don't know if you have any other details.
Sure. Through the chair to Trustee Bites. I think maybe you're thinking of the grade 2 program, which we've morphed into professional development for grade 2 primary teachers, all primary. That's more than going through the course. The course is for upper grades. We're also looking at getting more and more participation from secondary schools through phys ed, outdoor ed programs, and leadership programs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very
Chair
much.
Grummett, I have a question, if I could.
Okay, Chair Lloyd.
Thank you. And I know that we do not receive any dedicated funding for the ministry. So I'm assuming then that we will be planning to budget for this during the budget process to roll out these phases and the additional elements that we're adding to the program. So someone just clarify that, please.
Okay, Superintendent Van Nispen.
Thank you, and through the chair to Chair Lloyd. Yes, we will absolutely, as we do with every program, we will be budgeting for the needs of that program and the additional growth that has been discussed as we work through our phases.
Okay, follow up, Chair Lloyd? No? Okay. All right, thank you very much. And that takes us to item number 2, supporting our youngest learners achieve success through early development instrument, Pro-I-2, and I will invite Superintendent Maltby for that report, please.
Good evening, and through the chair to the table. The report before you outlines the early development instrument results and how this assessment informs our work in partnership with the County of Simcoe. The EDI, not to be confused with DEI, but the EDI assessment is sponsored through the Ministry of Education and assists school boards and their county partners in understanding children's developmental health for children between the school entry age and the age of 5. Kindergarten staff every 3 years fill out an assessment based on developmental and school readiness for children in their class. This information is then disseminated and sent back to school boards for their use. As you can see in this report, there are 5 domains that are included in this assessment. I'll just give you a quick overview of some of the specifics. I know it outlines a general explanation in the report, but I'll just give you a few specifics about each of those domains. So physical health and well-being is really generally coordinated in activities or tasks, doing up zippers, climbing stairs, dressing for recess. Social competence is around following rules, demonstrating respect, and class routines. Emotional maturity are students that offer help to others and questioning whether they are distractible or not. Language and cognitive development Can they count, read simple sentences, or even something like handling a book or manipulating a book? Communication skills and general knowledge. Can they tell a story or take part in imaginative play? So the SCUDSB data that you see before you is very consistent with provincial results. In fact, we're nearly directly in line in each of those domains with the province, the rest of the province. Areas where continued support is required include the physical health and well-being and communication skills and general knowledge domains. Kindergarten teams are adept at recognizing these needs, and they work together. So those teams include educational assistants, DECEs, and teachers, and they support students into settling into routines, developing independent habits, following instructions, and communicating clearly. We do have an early years program team also that supports schools and professional learning in each of those areas. These results that you see before you have been shared with schools in order to inform their school action and equity plans and identify areas of increased support. The early years team, including Manager Marcia Walker, is currently working in collaboration with the County of Simcoe and most of our central departments in developing our early years leadership strategy, which is also informed by this assessment. With that, I'd take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Trustee Strawn.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a few questions actually through you, Chair Grummett. First, just to make sure that I'm understanding the chart that's included in the report correctly, when it says in the category, there's a column that says number of children, that's the number of children out of the 3,356 students that were captured in the report that are displaying that there's a high level of vulnerability in that category?
Thank you through the chair to Trustee Strawn. Yes, that is the count. I know the word vulnerable is used. I mean, you heard the description of what those indicators are. So certainly, children that might require support in those areas. So when we use the term vulnerable, I think it denotes something different, if that makes sense.
Okay, you have another question?
In follow-up, I'm actually glad that you said that because the terminology was really throwing me off. And then that I was wondering, like, how bad is this? Like, what are we dealing with here because of that term vulnerable? And the clarification that you gave on the examples is also very helpful. Like, I'm not overly concerned that 700 kids might not be able to, like, get ready quickly for recess. That's a skill that you learn over time. But when you read this report, if you're only reading it, it's hard to get that context. I certainly didn't have it when I was reading this prior to coming to the meeting today. I guess the other question that I have just is around supporting children who have additional needs in these areas, and you mentioned the supports that we're providing, but how are we evaluating if those supports are effective?
Okay, Superintendent Maltby.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Strawn. So I'm not sure the last time you were in a kindergarten class at the beginning of the year, but certainly it is a special time for parents and for students and for teachers to welcome those young students into the school. So many do come, needing support in some of these routines. And regardless of the assessment, regardless of the EDI data, those students are in front of staff every day. So many of these students are with the same teacher for 2 years. So they know those students, and this is part of what FDK or kindergarten does. So it's that establishing those routines at the beginning. It's making sure that they have those independent habits so that when they hit grade 1 or grade 2 or grade 3, they have established those. So we see every day that development for children.
Okay, Trustee Strawn, did you have another question?
No, I think just Thank you for the report and for the verbal addition to those categories, helping with the overall context and understanding of what we're looking at here. Thank you.
Trustee Bites.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Garment, to Superintendent Maltby. I had a couple questions as well. First of all, I don't know if you said, and maybe I missed it, but what time of year was this assessment done? Is it done in June or is it done in September? Because I would assume that would make a big difference on, because as the year progresses, obviously, these skills are learned. So I'm just wondering when this is done.
Okay, Superintendent Maltby.
Thank you. Just conferring with my phone a friend behind me. And so the assessment occurs February, March. So you're correct in saying that students have had a bit of time. Those first year students or second year students have had a bit of time. Class.
Okay, Trustee Bites.
Yes, follow up. Thank you. Okay, so mid-year, that seems like a good time to do this. I wanted to ask, I don't ever remember seeing this report come to us before. So I just want to make sure this is a new assessment provided by the province, and we try to assess all of our students. Like we have approximately 3,356 FK. That represents the kindergarten students. I just wanted to know, and then cycle 5 would be your senior kindergartners and cycle 4 would be your junior kindergartners. Is that correct? So just bear with me. So I'm looking kind of, I realize these are different kids, but we're seeing like a difference. The numbers go down, or they should go down, between 4 and 5. That's what we would expect.
Okay, Superintendent Maltby.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Bites, thank you for that clarification, because this group of trustees may not have all seen the EDI report come through before, because it happens every 3 years. In this case, it's the 5th year because it wasn't conducted during COVID, so you may not have seen this report. But I know that Superintendent Samus has brought this report forward each year that it's been in place, and it's been in place for just over 20 years. And in terms of the cycle, what you're seeing is year to year. So those cycles are actually cycle 6 is the 22-23 school year. Cycle 5 I gave for comparison as the 18-19 school year. Just figuring out what 5 years ago was.
Okay, any follow-up, Trustee Bites?
Yes, please. Thank you. Through you, Chair Grummett. Okay. So cycle 5 is last year, right? 20, or is 5 years ago. And then the most recent data is cycle 4. So this does not differentiate between junior kindergartners and senior kindergartners. And so my next question is, do we assess both of them, or is it one, do we do just the senior kindergartners or just the junior kindergartners? Do we have that data? And also, is this communicated to our families? Like, do they get kind of like a report card about, where their child is doing? So I know that was a bunch of questions, so thank you.
Okay, Superintendent Maltby.
So I think the first question, through the chair to Trustee Bice, the first question is the students, regardless of whether they're first year, second year, school age ready, or up to 5 years of age, are in this report. So they're not disseminated. Those cycles, you're right, are the years of the assessment. And in terms of communicating to families, so that would be communicated through report cards and progress reports. So that we wouldn't, because this isn't by student, by name, this is a collection of overall within our board and the province.
Okay. Any questions online?
Thank you. I have a question.
Okay, Chair Lloyd.
Thank you. And through you, I'm just to our presenters, I'm just wondering if, and I think I know the answer, but I just want to ask the question. Is there any assessment done of our young people before they come to, say, school? So from the time they're born, possibly leave the hospital until they come to us, is there any follow-up or assessment done through public health or other ministries monitoring young people and how they are progressing? And then I have a second question is that, say we get a class that's, where it's identified there are a number of children needing support. What kind of additional supports would we put in that classroom, say, to help the educators that are working in that room? Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent Maltby.
Yes, thank you. And through the chair to Chair Lloyd. Yes, there are screeners and identifiers through our partners, through Empower Simcoe, through County of Simcoe Services. So we just met, Marsha Walker and I just met with Superintendent Jacobs' department, Shannon Thompson, to talk about our leadership strategy and how to make those things seamless for families. And we have strong partnerships. So many of those students do come in identified as requiring support from those agencies. In terms of supports to the classroom, that would be something along the lines of an educational assistant that may be present in the classroom on top of the classroom teacher and the DEC partnership. So additional resources would be in someone to help establish those routines with students.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Trustee Bites?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair Grummett, to Superintendent Maltby. Now that we've figured out how this all works, I have noticed that there seems to be more vulnerable children. And I guess maybe that's to be expected because of the pandemic. I know we've talked a lot about that critical socialization, the COVID babies that would be kind of captured in now in kindergarten. And I don't know if you're able to give any more comments on this kind of thing. Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent Maltby, please.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Bites. In terms of the vulnerability, I think, as Trustee Strawn had mentioned, I think we need to sort of steer away from that language, like students definitely need support or maybe struggling in certain areas. But when we look at this report, we have to look at the whole child and we have to look at all the domains. So I see the increase in the physical health and well-being, but that certainly doesn't encapsulate an entire child. They may be very adept in other areas of these domains. And certainly, we work with families. There's not a family or parent in our county that wouldn't send their best child to us. And so we would work with them to support, again, to integrate and to establish into those routines. But you may be correct in terms of increased vulnerability around those COVID years, because those children did live through that time, but we still have them in our schools. We still need to support them, and we still need to establish those routines with them. But I want to be clear, we want to look at the whole child when we look at this data, not just one separate domain.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I'm just looking online. Are there any questions online? No? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So that takes us to item number 3, Math Achievement Action Plan 2023-24 Summary Report, Pro-I-3, and that will be a report from Superintendent Fennell, please.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Grummett, to the table, I'd like to invite Principal of School Effectiveness and Improving Student Performance in Math, Marcy Duncan, to join me to deliver this report.
Excellent. Please join us, Principal Duncan.
Principal Duncan and I have prepared a summary of the 2023-24 Math Achievement Action Plan to share with you this evening. The data that we will be sharing is currently being used to inform revisions to the 24-25 map that we're planning to bring to program standing in November. An essential component of the Math Achievement Action Plan last year was monitoring the effectiveness of the strategies and actions taken within the SCDSB to support the plan's overarching goals. The SCDSB's goals aligned closely with the Ministry of Education's priority actions, and those included engaging in learning about math content knowledge for teaching, planning responsive instruction and assessment based on the curriculum and the high-impact instructional practices in mathematics, working to build a sense of belonging for students through the use of culturally relevant math tasks and activities, and engaging parents and guardians through access to Knowledge Hook, which is a digital math tool, and other SCDSB resources and experiences to support their children. A snapshot of our key system and school actions to support student achievement and belonging in the math classroom include a math learning and leadership network sessions with elementary and secondary school leaders and math leads, professional learning with grade 10 math educators to support the transition of students from grade 9 D-streamed math, and instruction and assessment facilitators working in grades 3, 6, 8, and 9 classrooms in priority schools. As a follow-up to M2LRN, school leaders and math leads facilitated learning with educators in their schools. The commitment to these PLCs was strong, as all schools completed at least one session. In the elementary panel, most schools completed 2, and 92% of schools completed 3 learning sessions. This is a notable increase that was supported by the consistent availability of supply teachers last year. The focus of M2LRN and the majority of the PLC sessions in schools was on the junior division, as this is where we identified our greatest opportunity for growth. Through the map last year, we identified a variety of key performance indicators, or KPIs, that helped us to measure the effectiveness of the actions we were taking. We measured impact on school leaders, educators, students, and families. Beginning with measured impact on educators, as a result of their learning through the school year, over 2,000 elementary and secondary educators reported an increased knowledge for using the high-impact instructional practices. Examples of these include small group instruction, deliberate practice, and descriptive feedback. 93% of secondary educators attending the M2LRN sessions reported a change in their teaching practice based on an increase in their math content knowledge. Examples of content knowledge included operations with fractions and linear relations. 79%, or close to 2,100 elementary educators, reported an increase in math content knowledge as a result of professional learning in Term 2 alone. And as a result of their learning, 75% of elementary and secondary educators surveyed reported a change in their math assessment practices. Each of these educator data points directly informs our progress on both SCDSB math goals as well as the ministry's priority actions in math. With educator learning and changes in practice, we seek the impact on student confidence and achievement. While overall 2023-24 report card data remained relatively consistent last year, there were notable improvements. The number of students in grade 9 who achieved the provincial standard of level 3 or 4 increased by 2%. Students with special education needs, those who self-identify as Indigenous, and multilingual learners all reached provincial standard at higher rates, with 3%, 13%, and 1% increases respectively. We know that educators have been working to provide responsive instruction based on the individual needs of their learners through a variety of high-impact classroom practices, and we are very pleased to see these gains.
Related to the report card achievement of students with special education needs in the elementary panel, we noted significant growth in grade 3 and moderate growth in grade 6. The SCDSB block check-ins are completed 3 times per year and measure student retention of concepts over a 3-month period. When we look at cohort data, we can see how a group of students progressed from year to year. This block check-in graph shows the students improved by 5% from grade 5 to grade 6. Students with special education needs in this cohort also demonstrated a 3% growth. Last year, students in our priority schools completed a pre-assessment in the fall and a post-assessment in the spring using KnowledgeHook, our digital math tool. In grade 3, we saw a 13% increase in the number of students achieving the provincial standard. And in grade 6, we saw a 22% increase in the number of students achieving the provincial standard. This data helped us to see that students' learning was progressing through the year on grade level content. Last year, we very closely monitored the achievement of students with special education needs in our priority classrooms, and we saw growth in a number of students who achieved the provincial standard on the report card from term 1 to term 2. While we celebrate all growth, this slide represents a significant improvement in student confidence in mathematics. The number of students in grade 4 to 8 who felt highly or very highly confident in math increased by over 3,000 students, which is close to a 20% increase. We also saw approximately 1,300 fewer students report low or very low confidence in mathematics. So students are moving forward from all points in the confidence continuum. Another way we measure student confidence is with the grade 8 exit survey. Students from 87 elementary schools were asked to self-report on how confident they felt in math in the fall and again in the spring. Students reporting a high level of confidence increased by 6%, while students reporting low confidence decreased by 5%. Again, we are seeing growth forward.
Parent and guardian engagement was an enhanced focus in the 2023-24 Math Achievement Action Plan, and it was actioned through the new Math at Home digital resource, virtual sessions for families, which included fulsome math kits sent home to each family, and the invitation for parents and guardians to join their children's KnowledgeHook digital tool math account. As of September, the Math at Home site has hosted over 6,000 visitors to over 10,000 pages or app screens. 160 families participated in the Math at Home evening sessions last year, and over 2,500 parents and guardians responding to the 2023-24 School Climate Survey agreed that they are satisfied with the resources to support their children's math learning. We are currently working on the 2024-25 Math Achievement Action Plan, which we will bring to program standing in November. Based on an extensive review of the data from students, families, educators, and school leaders, the plan will include a deeper focus on universal design for learning to support the achievement of all students, enhanced strategies for identifying student progress in math, partnerships to support early numeracy for pre-kindergarten students, and the opportunity for in-person family engagement in math. And with that, we would be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. And do we have any questions? Oh, Trustee Talbot.
Chair to Superintendent Fennell, I think we've failed our students in our math education capabilities. It's provincially, I thought the statistics was somewhere around 53% is all we're getting, and I think our Simcoe County Board achievement is only around 51. Am I off base on those numbers? First of all, are we that low, both provincially and within the board?
Through you, Chair Grummett, to Trustee Talbot. So, if you're speaking to the most recent EQAO results, is that what you are referring to?
Last year's report. I've seen last year's report. It came in and said that our efficacy in mathematics provincially has been 53%. success rate, and I believe we're even lower than that as a board, 51 or 52. Okay. I'm almost sure it's close, but I'm trying to retain last year's statistics.
Okay. So the provincial, it depends on what grade level. Last year, the provincial average for grade 3 was 60% of students reached level 3-4. Provincially, it was 50%, which is likely what you're thinking about with grade 6, and then about 54% of students reaching level 3-4 in grade 9. So one of the things that we do need to consider is the achievement of students who may be progressing very well in mathematics and sit at a level 2, which is very much approaching that provincial standard, and students who are achieving just at the cusp of that provincial standard still have numerous pathways throughout school and following graduation.
Trustee Talbot, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do, Chair, through to Superintendent Fennell. It still seems that I'm trying to grasp, the bureaucracy has forced us into these action plans of 1, 2, and 3. Is that correct? That is bureaucracy, meaning the Ministry of Education? And if so, is this more to teachers' capabilities in understanding math than the students? Are we addressing? If you could give me a Reader's Digest, I've been through this three or four times. I'm trying to develop some kind of positive attitude towards our approach here, but I don't see a lot with our results yet. Thanks.
Okay, Superintendent Fennell.
Okay, through you, Chair Grummett, to Trustee Talbot. Thank you for sharing your thoughts regarding the report and some of the data that we were able to share with you. We are encouraged by the growth that we've seen. We will be bringing a report, an EQAO report, coming in November to be able to share a little bit more of the provincial data and where we are. I can share with you that that as a system, we have seen gains in all grade levels, so 3, 6, and 9 in each of those assessments. We've seen some gains, which is very encouraging based on the work that's been done, and that the work is comprehensive. So we know that we have work to do in math. The province recognizes that there's work to do in math, so we are not alone in that. And you are correct in sharing that the priority actions that we are focused under are ministry priority actions. However, we are able to find ourselves in those actions. So we look at the needs that we see in our students, where their strengths are and where the needs are, and that's what we're working to address. So when we spoke about our responsive instruction last year as being a real focus, that was understanding where are students at right now. We recognize that there perhaps will be opportunities for learning. Perhaps students may have had some learning loss coming out of the pandemic as well. But regardless, with math instruction, it is important to recognize where students are at and plan for that accordingly. And a new layer of work for us last year was really working to engage families, parents and guardians in math, in helping to support positive math mindsets among students as well. So that's where much of our work. And what we're sharing with you today is we have been able to see some improvements, especially where we have focused most, which is in the junior levels, and that's a key area.
Okay, Trustee Talbot.
One more question, Chair Drummond, to the Superintendent Fennell. Well, I congratulate you and encourage, of course, our approach, but the tool that I found very interesting, which you said is 130,000 responses, is the home involvement with families. It seems to me, in my limited or my years gone by math approach, if I missed anything, it's like building blocks, isn't it? It's like building blocks. We miss something, it's hard to go back. So many kids miss something and then they get discouraged from trigonometry, algebra, everything, as you professionals know only so well. It's so hard in math to fill in that void. Is that going to be enough, our home program that you exemplified here, 20 minutes ago? Or is there some other tools that can bring students back up to the level that they've missed or some previous background that they may have missed? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent Fennell.
Through you, Chair Grummett, to Trustee Talbot. So this is a very comprehensive plan, and we will be bringing forward our 24-25 plan next month in November. But just to share with you, the connections with families at home is just one part of that. But when you're thinking about how do we meet the needs of students who may have missed certain concepts and need more opportunity for that? That's a great question. And some of those things that we're doing are those high impact practices. So using assessment. So we use assessment for learning when students are engaging in new content. We have opportunities to find out where they are in the process. How much do they know coming in? What prior knowledge do they have? What concepts may they still be struggling with a little bit? And that's where we start with our planning. Students will come in at different starting points, and educators are working through small group instruction, or we talk about deliberate practice. And what that means is different opportunities for more reinforcement and more practice of concepts that they may need more time with. We also are using tools and representations. So we have a variety of what we call manipulatives in the classroom to make math visual. So that is another piece that we're doing. Descriptive feedback. So making sure that students are getting feedback where they're at and what they need to do to grow in their math. So those are just, that's a snapshot of some of the things that we're doing to ensure that we're meeting students where they are and being able to move forward from there.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Strawn, please.
Thank you, Chair Grummett, and thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions on two different tracks, and one kind of track of my questioning is related to high school students in math. So two main things there. One is around assessment, particularly in high school. Like, I find that in elementary level, there seems to be more opportunity for assessment that is variable. Like, you can demonstrate your knowledge in several different ways. And when you get to high school, it narrows in on that test. And some students do not do very well on tests, but maybe can understand the concepts. And I'm just like wondering how we can work with the variety of assessment tools that we have available so that we can assess our learners in secondary school in a way that's meaningful, that where they can see success in their learning, and we can keep them like giving them positive feedback of thinking that believing that they know and understand math concepts when that might not come through on a test.
Okay, Superintendent Fennell.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Grummett, to Trustee Strawn. Thank you for asking that question, because it does give us an opportunity to share with you a little bit of the work that's been happening in secondary, and this has been over the last couple of years. We have been working with grade 9 and 10 educators using a variety of practices in the classroom, and you may have heard of building thinking classrooms, and that is it helps to inform. So some of these strategies are through Dr. Peter Liljedahl, but you may have actually in one of your visits seen math where students are up and around the classroom. So they're on whiteboards and they're solving problems and they're communicating, collaborating. And this provides a great opportunity for the classroom educator to observe what students are doing, to listen to the conversations, and then that is typically followed up by independent work. So much of the work that we've been doing through M2LRN, those networking sessions, and then the PLCs that happen back in schools with grade 9 and 10 educators, is working through a variety of ways of understanding where students are at. So that assessment is built right in. So we've used the word triangulation of assessment, ensuring that we are receiving data about where students are at and where they need to go through observations, conversations, product. Another example is check your understanding. So students in many of our secondary classrooms are having the opportunity to perhaps choose a mild, medium, and spicy question. And they're going to choose where they feel that they can access that work and that content and get direct feedback on that. So even ensuring that they have a pathway forward, which also helps to support that mindset and that self-confidence in mathematics.
Okay, follow-up, Trustee Strawn.
Thank you. And my follow-up is related to that pathway. And in secondary school, we have pathways of academic and the different levels that you could choose. So we've de-streamed grade 9 math. But what are we doing for young people? Let's say they're on the university track and they don't excel in math. And then they quit math because they don't want to take a course that's not a U course because they have to apply to university. But now they're just missing math. So how can we address that?
Okay, Superintendent Fennell, please.
Through you, Chair Grummett, to Trustee Strawn. I would suggest I go back to some of the practices, the innovative practices that are happening in the classrooms at secondary. When I spoke about the high impact instructional practices in mathematics, that is a K-12 resource. So having tools and resources, having the opportunity to collaborate on problem solving, building a community of math learners in a classroom. Math looks different at secondary now than it did, and we continue to build the practices of our secondary educators to build classrooms where the tasks are relevant and engaging for students, and they have the opportunity to problem solve in small groups and then do things together and discuss and talk about the things that they're doing. There's an opportunity for direct feedback and small group and whole group learning. So many of those practices that we're using in elementary and learning are also practices that have seen some success in secondary to build confidence.
Okay, Trustee Strawn.
Just one more follow-up on that, and really just around, I think, the attitudes of what your course number says and what letters at the end of the course. Is it a U or is it some other letter? And maybe some advocacy on working with the schools or guidance departments, or I don't even know if we're advocating to the ministry for acceptance into post-secondary, but I feel like there's a lot of pressure for our senior secondary students to get the best marks they can and to get into the programs that they're aspiring to, which sometimes and I guess it's not just math, but it can just leave courses on the table where if I'm a student and I take a university level math, I'll probably get a 60 or 50. I don't want that on my transcript when I'm applying to university. But if I took the college level math, maybe I would have a better opportunity understanding those concepts and get a better grade. But now I don't have the right course code when I'm applying to my university. So that's kind of the barrier that I think I'm trying to see if we can somehow address, so that students who still enjoy or are interested in math can just take it at a different level, like you're talking about. They can take it where they're at. How do we encourage them to do that?
Okay. Superintendent Maltby, I think, is going to take that one.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Strawn. So what you said at the end there is sort of right on the mark. So there's different math for different purposes and different pathways. So not everything has to be a grade 12U math. Certainly when you go into skilled trades or apprenticeship programs, there's different type of maths that students will take in order to gain entry into those programs. And students do have the option to take multiple university level courses. Not all count towards your acceptance. So it's top six. Sorry, just making sure top 6 courses that you take would count towards what you're, I think, referring to your average to be accepted into a program. But certainly you can take as many U courses as you can fit into your schedule. But I think the point is that we would encourage students to remain in math for their pathway, and there's different maths for those pathways.
Okay, Trustee Bites, please.
Yes, thank you, through you. I had a couple questions about this report. You talked a lot about priority classrooms, and I just wanted to get some details about how you go about, because I do love the block check-ins and how they're standardized throughout our system. I think that this is fantastic, and I think that this is a good path forward, and I think there's been some really promising stuff. I know it takes time, but I was wondering, you said priority classrooms, and what is a priority classroom, and how many students are we actually evaluating, or are we evaluating everyone and we're just taking a sample? How does that whole process work?
Okay, Principal Duncan.
Through the chair to Trustee Bites. The priority classrooms, we have 17 priority schools that we have 29 classrooms that we support with our instruction and assessment facilitators. And they work in those classrooms supporting students with small group instruction and supporting the teachers and doing things such as co-planning and co-assessing and working together with them. Within that number, is 16 of the elementary schools, and we have 1 secondary school.
Okay, follow-up, Trustee Bites?
Yes, thank you, through you. Thank you, that's very interesting. Now I have another question. So you identify schools as needing high priority, and obviously this is very small. We have well over 100 schools. So this is a pretty small sample. And you're saying that this is where you have extra resources that you've put into the math classes. I'm wondering, do you do the same assessments in classes that do not have these extra resources and then compare them?
Okay, Superintendent Fennell, please.
Through you, Chair Grummett, to Trustee Bites. So it is important to know that we have our Math Achievement Action Plan serves all schools. And in those priority schools, that's where, again, as Principal Duncan mentioned, that's where the math facilitators offer more direct support in priority classrooms. We absolutely are looking at that data. Some of that was shared this evening about some of the results, especially using that knowledge hook assessment and where we are in the priority school classrooms as far as pre-assessment and post. And we provide all of those resources to all schools. So all schools have the opportunity. They learn about the resources through our M2LRN, our system networking sessions, and all resources that are created are available for all.
Okay, Trustee Bites.
Thank you, through you. Thank to Superintendent Fennell. Thank you for explaining that. I think it's important to understand how the system works. I guess what I'm really wanting to know, and I said you've kind of looked at it, and I can't really tell from here, but is the priority school, like, are these classrooms, do they achieve better? Or do they achieve the same? Like, what is the goal here? Because if they're high priority, maybe there's more special needs there. And so I'm wondering how I know you said about key performance indicators. I'm just wondering how and I know it's a complex thing, how we assess, because obviously as a trustee, right, if this is really helpful, right, having these extra people, which I would think is, right, do we have data to back that up so we can advocate maybe to get more math facilitators? And because that's ministry funded, correct? Can you just maybe explain how that process works and maybe some of your insights? I'm not sure. Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent Fennell, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Grummett, to Trustee Bites. The ministry does fund directly through the Math Achievement Action Plan a few of our facilitators, and then we have supplemented that as well. So we have a larger team that are in schools, and so therefore in those priority schools, which are identified through the ministry, and they were identified based on one source of data in the original, so we're speaking of last year's priority schools, so they were identified based on EQAO data. And then which we will speak of coming forward, but we had the opportunity to look at additional data points and look at those priority schools going forward. So that is how they're identified, but we do have additional facilitators working in those schools really because that is where the greatest opportunity for growth is. And that's where we're putting that a little bit of extra attention there. And we certainly are looking for growth based on the additional educator in a classroom.
Okay. Are there any questions online? No? Okay. You can certainly hear your passion and love for math. There is so much incredible information you shared in that report. So I'm very grateful to learn so much tonight from that. So thank you. And that takes us to item number 4, 2023-24 School Climate Survey for Students in Grades 4 to 12, Key Highlights, Pro-I-4, and that will be a report from Superintendent Young, please.
Thank you, and through the chair, with your permission, may I respectfully invite Manager Newton to the table?
Yes, please join us. Thank you.
I would like to thank her for her expertise and insight related to the administration and analysis of this report. In your package for this evening, I have the requested update for the table related to the Board of Trustee motion from June 19th, 2024. Thank you to the Research and Decision Support Team for completing this report update. Before you this evening is school climate results trended over time, 2017, 2018 to 2013, 24, 2023, 24, Appendix B. This report is for information. The report provides results for 16 survey questions from the elementary survey and 18 questions from the secondary survey that were included in successive years of survey administration between 2017-18 and 2023-24. Schools use climate survey results to guide the development of their school action and equity plans in monitoring the impact of local initiatives designed to foster inclusive, safe, and supportive learning environments. To summarize the trended results in Appendix B of the updated report, we see overall increases in both the elementary and secondary panels within survey questions related to student belonging. As well, we see increases within the school climate category called Adults at My School, and a higher proportion of students within both panels who reported being involved at school outside of class time. Findings around the school's safety at secondary showed a decline, while elementary showed little to no change. The largest increases within both elementary and secondary panels are seen in the proportion of students who reported learning about equity, diversity, and inclusion topics, and also learning about the impacts affecting demographic groups. On survey questions related to positive learning opportunities within their classroom, both panels showed increases as well. The trended results within the area of student well-being showed little change within elementary and an increase in the area within secondary panel. Please note under the conclusions section of Appendix B, the first sentence should read, decrease compared to previous years. And with this, we are open to questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay, Trustee Armstrong, please.
Thank you. Just trying to get to the page of the question. The Appendix A, page, I don't have a page, I'm just on the paperwork. Under mental health and well-being, in school we have learned, and I'm sorry, I'm assuming this is page 10 or so. In school we've learned about the value of helping others. We all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. What makes a good friend with an asterisk, which means elementary panel question only, how to recognize the feelings of others and how to solve conflict using words. What makes a good friend? I don't understand that statement. What makes a good friend, and then do they have choices? Or I just see that was offered in elementary, and just to expand on that question that was given to the survey.
Through the chair, there wasn't additional options after that. It was just a statement. So the lead-in was, in school we have learned, and then those statements that are on the bottom of the graph was a list. But that question was only for elementary students, wasn't in secondary. So it would have said, in school we have learned what makes a good friend. So then they were doing agree disagree, strongly agree, if
so
they
was there
learned
like a
that.
yes or
Yeah.
Not false positive, but just one, a yes or a no, or I agree or I don't know. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks. That helps. I just thought that statement looked a little not explanatory. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Bites?
Yes, thank you. Through you to Superintendent Young. I'm struggling here because I see year-over-year data nicely graphed for participation rates. But then when we look at the questions, these nice blue bar graph ones, it just is a comparison of elementary and secondary. Am I missing something? I don't understand. And why is the belonging question in a circle instead? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So you have all these questions like the one Trustee Armstrong referenced, but then it just says elementary and secondary. So how do I know what year it is, and how do I know if we're getting better or we're getting worse from the presentation?
Superintendent Young?
Through the chair to Trustee Bites, if you could please go to Appendix B. That is the trended results from the motion from June 19th. Yeah, everything in the report is exactly the same from June 19th. We've done the updated trended data from 2017 to 2024 in Appendix B.
Follow-up, Trustee Bites?
Okay, I see that. I don't understand why it isn't in nice graphs so that it's easy to communicate and understand like it was. Like, I realize maybe we didn't go into that level of detail with the motion, but it's hard to understand. I get that this is the written version, but now I feel like I have to make my own graphs to understand it or color them in. So I'm just struggling with the way this was chosen to be presented, and I realize this was extra work, and I really appreciate you finding this trend over trend data. I'm just having trouble of how we now communicate that to the public and make it easy for people to understand.
Superintendent Young,
So we will be coming with a fulsome, complete report on November 13th to the program committee. So duly noted. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? Trustee Strawn, please.
Thank you. Just to say that I think the report is very encouraging, and I'm glad that you appended the additional data. I agree with Trustee Bites. It would be nice if it was easier to read, because I think it's a really good news story, and that we should be highlighting this, particularly around things like children feeling like they belong at school. That's just going up. And then the other area that I think is has increased dramatically year over year in a positive way is around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And like, when I saw the numbers, like originally, I'm like, oh yeah, that's nice, like great numbers. But now when I see the data and how that's changing, the perception is changing year over year, I'm like way more excited about it. So congratulations to everyone who's been doing this work. And yes, I think you should put in very nice graphs, because we should definitely celebrate the achievements that we're seeing here, and it just showcases the good work that all of our educators, principals, the whole team in the board office and at the schools are doing with our young people. So thank you.
Well said, Trustee Strawn. That sounds, that's really nice to hear. Any questions online? Okay.
Yes. Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Trustee Foley?
Thank you. I might be breaking up. I'm driving. So, yeah, that was a great report, Madam Chair. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, staff, for putting all that information together and giving us some other annual reports to, do a bit of reflection with. I think that was wonderful. I think it certainly shows, some of the increases and decreases. Although I have a question, Madam Chair, about, and I've mentioned this is the third or fourth time I mentioned the very same thing. When we ask the question, do you feel safe in school? One in, for elementary school children, students say they don't feel safe, and one now in 3. Last year was 1 in 4 students in high school that feel safe in high school. This year, the latest one shows it's 1 in 3. And I think, Madam Chair, that my real concern, my question is, why haven't we been asking them why they don't feel safe? This is the second year this report has come out since I've been on board, and both times a large number of students are saying they don't feel safe in our schools, and we're not going back and saying, why don't you feel safe, and what can we do to make you feel safe? So that's a big concern to me. And I've asked this before. I'm still waiting for the appropriate answer to that question.
Thank you, Trustee Foley. It is a little bit difficult to hear you, but I think your question was, why are we not asking? So we are asking, do you feel safe in schools? But we are not asking why. Is that correct, Trustee Foley?
That's absolutely correct, because it seems like we're, repeating the same question and getting the same answer. And in the past year, the response was even greater. A greater number of students said they did not feel safe in school. And I'm wondering why we're not asking the most important question, which is, how can we make you feel safer, and what is the problem?
Okay, thank you. Superintendent Young, I think, will speak to that.
Thank you for that, or through the chair to Trustee Foley, and thank you for that question. That is at the root of what we are trying to do through school climate surveys. We've had elementary and secondary principals working with us to tighten questions and work through questions that they see could assist them through their actions within their schools. I know a lot of schools will take this data, and yes, it's more global. Are you feeling safe? Are you safe? Those are two different things. The question asks, are you feeling safe? I know lots of principals, if not all principals, do have focus groups within their school to do that deeper dive, get that street data from their site and work with the students. I think when we talk about safety, I do a lot of thinking about safety and a lot of conversations about safety. And some of the things that come to mind that I feel we can get better at asking and getting deeper into the questions. Is it physical safety that they're not feeling safe physically? Is it emotionally? Is it medically? We just came out of, even though we're a few years out, we have a lot of students in our schools who attended school and had exceptional experiences in Simcoe County for many years and then had to take a break. Do they worry about things like that? Their safety related to other factors. So in their that can affect their school life related to food insecurity, housing insecurity, relationships with peers, relationships with partners. So Trustee Foley, I think you've definitely connected to where we are moving in the future to do deeper dives through not just survey questions, but continuing to work with our principals to have those focus groups and to have that site-based deeper dive. Every school has similarities and every school has differences. So I think it's embedded in the school action and equity plan. It's embedded in what principals do with their own students, and I think it's embedded in the right actions and asking the right questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Young. Trustee Foley, do you have a follow-up question for that?
I do, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, this is not the first time I've asked that we do a deeper dive, and we didn't do a deeper dive when I asked staff to do a deeper dive in 2022, 23. And I think we really need to do one because we need to know why students don't feel safe. And I don't think it should be just left to the principals or kept on a local basis. I think we as a board need to know what's going on in the schools, what the students are feeling unsafe about. And I think that information needs to be brought back to us. And as well, I think that when we ask students, do you feel safe, or not safe in school, I think we need to have a little B section of that saying, please identify what your specific concern is so that we are doing a deeper dive then and there, not a year or 2 years later when I'm asking or somebody else is asking. Because in the meantime, you've got scared students. And I don't think we've done our due diligence to find out what we need to know to make them safe. Maybe it's a local thing, maybe it's a global thing. I did a deep dive yesterday into violence in schools. And just in my area alone, 22, 23, there was a 56% increase in violence in schools. And that's not just our school board, but that's globally ours and the Catholic school system in Collingwood area. But that's pretty significant. And if I were a student, that would be scaring the bejesus out of me. So there's a lot going on. We need to know. We are doing governance, and in order to do governance, we need data. I am asking you, provide us the data on what those students feel unsafe about. Because by saying 1/3 of students in high school do not feel safe, and 1/4 of students in elementary school do not feel safe, is really kind of a quagmire of, I don't really know, and nobody else knows what they feel safe or unsafe about. We need better data.
Thank you, Trustee Foley. Did anyone want to speak to that at this point? Or, oh, Trustee Strawn has a question or comment? Okay.
Just to say that I agree with Trustee Foley's comments in gaining a better understanding of what the student perspective is of that question. And because we have students of so many different ages answering the survey, like what it means to feel safe when you're 6 is different than when you're 16, and like what's influencing these things is quite different, and it also like definitely depends on the day. And I mean, maybe when you're in grade 2 and you're answering this, you don't feel safe at school because sometimes it rains there and you're scared of the rain and your mom's not there. And that's very different than violence in schools. And so if we could drill down on this a little bit, then like maybe there's a way to bring some context to that question so that we can make sure that we're properly addressing it with our resources.
Thank you, Trustee Strachan, and I would agree. And I think when Superintendent Young was speaking about, again, what does feeling safe mean, right? It can be lots of things, might not just be violence, but it could be, again, food insecurity. It could be, again, lots of different things. So I think that's a great point. Where are we?
Madam Chair?
Sorry. Who am I looking at? Trustee Foley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I agree wholeheartedly with both of you have said, and yeah, I absolutely, we need the data in order to make really firm decisions and for our staff to make the appropriate decisions. I mean, it could be, they don't like being home away from mom, but it could also be knowing that somebody is carrying around a weapon. So we don't know what that means. Is it because of what happened in Collingwood a couple of weeks ago when the police arrested a couple of kids that had at one point talked about coming into the school with weapons? Mind you, one of the kids was no longer a student. But I mean, is that the kind of fear we have? Or is it the fear of rain or the fear of darkness or the fear of anxiety separation? Without having the data, we really don't know. So we need to mine it a whole lot better than we have because we're just scratching the bare surface. And we can't do our job governing, and the staff really aren't able to do what they need to do without knowing the specifics. And I'll end it there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Foley. Trustee Bites, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Grummett, to our presenters. I also agree with Trustee Foley and Trustee Strachan. I think what is really key is when we look at this data, like obviously we've said it before, everyone here is very concerned about our students in school. I've brought up before kind of the desensitizing to violence, how it's become more normal and then it's not reported because it just becomes the norm. And I believe I've given the example before of when, there's a crime in the park by the school, we send home a newsletter to let all the parents know that it happened. But when there is an actual violent incident in a classroom and it's evacuated, or something happens that is truly traumatic, we do not tell. There's no notice to go home. And I think that when we don't do that, we're helping the problem of desensitizing kids to violence and to feeling safe. And I think that we've compounded the issue. And I think that that is something we really need to do. And when we ask these questions, or we have focus groups, right? Like I like the idea of focus groups, but we definitely need to have a standard way to do it so that it is done consistently. So then you're able to make a report over those findings. I know I love thought exchange. Maybe we could do a thought exchange in collaboration with this. I know school climate survey is very regulated by the ministry. It's a legal requirement that we do it. But I do think we could dive deeper. We often go above and beyond in so much in this board, and I think that, it's an uncomfortable question, why kids don't feel safe, because no one wants to think about kids not feeling safe. But the reality is we live in a very violent society, and, it's just part of life, and everyone's experiences are so different that we really do need to start having these conversations. And they're not going to be easy conversations, and it's going to take a lot of bravery. And I'm glad to hear that some of our principals have engaged in that. And, it would be great to get some stuff. I know we have some fantastic principals that really, really care for their students, but to be able to then communicate that so that we can all, because when you don't know, you don't feel safe either. So I think that's a key part. And I really appreciate that you did do this. Go back and do the year-over-year data. I didn't mean to sound too critical about the presentation about it. But I think that this is something, you know, especially with our new committee, when's that coming up? You know, maybe this is something that could really dive deep into, because I think, you know, okay, so now we know, what are we going to do about it? What does it actually mean? And if we don't have the details, we can't pinpoint how to best allocate resources or drive policy to best support our kids, you know? You know, there's been many reports in the news from our union partners and stuff to indicate this general trend. And so I think it's something we really need to monitor closely. And so I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but thank you.
Superintendent Young.
Through the chair and to Trustee Bites, I appreciate and thank you for acknowledging the work that was done by research and decision making and safe and welcoming. I think I just want to clarify to the table, there is a lot of work happening. There are a lot of supports happening within the board related to safety. We do have bully prevention and intervention. We have reframing bullying pilots happening in 5 of our schools, working to update resources for the entire system. We've just updated the code of conduct related to PPM 128, but also doing a deeper dive and ensuring that it is appropriate for all community members. Security measures in our schools. We have cameras inside our secondary schools. We have cameras on the outside of our elementary schools. We're fobbed in and out in our elementary schools. Vape detectors have just been installed in all of our secondary schools. We also are moving fast and furious through violent threat risk assessment. We have a community protocol that we've worked with community partners. So there are a lot of things happening. Our well-being department works very closely with Safe and Welcoming. They're supporting with resources related to Mental Health Ontario. So I just hope that the table understands that we are doing our best with the data we have at this point, working with our school principals as well. And like Trustee Bites mentioned, we have exceptional principals in Simcoe County who daily are getting to know their students. And when I mentioned receiving street data and focus groups, those are those interpersonal relationships that our teachers, our support staff, and our principals have with the students in their schools. And they do get a lot of information through relationships. So yes, we can always do better to find out more, but I just wanted to highlight some of the things we are doing in Simcoe County.
Thank you. That was. I'm glad you shared all those additional things that are happening. So there's a lot of great work happening. So thank you very much for that. Anyone else? Anyone online? Okay.
Madam
all right.
Chair?
Oh, yes, right. Trustee Foley?
Sure. Yeah, just in closing on this, I'd say that I appreciate all the things that we're doing. They're great things. I'm sure they're helping out. But unless we really know why our students are scared or don't feel safe, none of them are really doing any good. We need to know what the root of the problem is and know where to put our resources. We need to know what the cause of fear or the lack of safety is in order to address it appropriately. So I think that's really, and also I think we should be sharing the concerns that students have with our parent councils. I think that our parent councils need to know the level of unsafety or unsafety in schools. These are things that need to be shared. We're supposed to be transparent. We need to be more transparent. We need to find more information and share that information with our parents and our staff and everybody else concerned, because everybody working together can make our school system work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Foley. Okay, all right. Thank you very much again for all that work. And that takes us to correspondence. We do not have any. Are there any other matters? Trustee Bites?
Yes. Oh, through you, Chair Grummett, I just wanted to share that I had the delightful opportunity to visit Tottenham Public School today with Superintendent Webb and to see all the great learning that's happening there, and it was wonderful to get out. And I wanted to thank Principal Senek for hosting us and all the teachers that welcomed us so warmly. And when there's some really great principals and they have a really hard job, and anything we can do at this level to support them, sometimes their day is just all behavioral, and God bless them for what they do and how much they care. But it's it's a problem that society needs to address. We all need to work together, parents and educators and teachers. But just big kudos to our schools and the people on the front lines, caring and helping and supporting these children, with whatever life brings to them and whatever they bring to school. And it's very heartwarming to hear of their stories. And I just want to give a big shout out. I know this happens in every school, but I just happened to be there today, and very impressed with everything that's going on there in Tottenham, at Tottenham Public. So go Tigers.
Perfect. Thank you, Trustee Bites. Trustee Strawn.
Thank you, Chair Grummett. And I would also just like to take a moment to express thanks and appreciation to all of the staff, volunteers, and students who participated in cross-country running outside at Sunnydale Park today. What an awful weather day they had, and everybody was soaked and cold, and just kudos to all for braving through it and making it through the day. And hopefully when they get to the kids who are going on to the next level, hopefully they have a nicer weather day for the event.
Anyone else? I want to just remind everyone that Friday is the Elmville Fall Fair Student Parade. This is a pretty incredible thing if you've never seen it. I'm going to say how many schools? 9, 10 schools participate. Thousands of students. I'm getting the yes. It is incredible. It starts at 11 in Elmville. If you want to see something pretty great and make yourself pretty happy, go to Elmville and check the student parade out, because it is fantastic. Any other matters? Okay. Any notices of motion for next meeting? I don't see any. And that takes us to adjournment. Do I have Trustee Bites? We'll move that, and seconded by Trustee Talbot. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.